This is Umar for BoxNation. I'm joined by Frank Warren a couple of days after a great night in Glasgow, Frank. I mean, the first two shows you put on with DAZN were very good in Manchester and Nottingham. It was going to take some beating, but I thought everyone on the card delivered, whether it was exciting stoppages. Obviously, the main event was a fight of two halves. It was a battle. We'll get stuck into it all, but just overall pleased with what Glasgow delivered.
Oh, very much so. I mean, the first of all, the fans were fantastic. I watched it because I've been travelling. I watched it on the TV, and I just thought the atmosphere that came across from there was marvellous. It was really good, and as you say, very, very good fights. Some exciting fights, some closely fought fights in there as well.
Yeah, we'll go through all it, but I want to start with the main event. As you said, the atmosphere came across on DAZN, which is good to hear because it was extremely loud in there when Josh Taylor made his ring walk. Big time boxing doesn't go to Scotland too much, but when it does, they always turn out. We were just talking about off camera there, Frank, a fight of two halves. Did you see like that as well?
Yeah, I did. I thought Josh started really well, and I thought, um, look, with Ekow, like Josh, he's a competitor. You know, he's going to come to fight, and he gives everything. And we knew it was going to be a tough fight for both of them, and that's how it turned out to be. I thought the decision was right. Nothing against Josh. I thought that Ekow did enough to win the fight, but it was a bloody good fight by both, and they both put a great performance in. And I think Josh thought he won it, and there's a couple of people I've spoken to who also thought the same thing. But for me, I thought Ekow came through, and who knows, maybe a rematch. But what a really good fight by both two really good fellas who gave everything. It was a fabulous fight.
Frank, I was giving Josh all the early rounds. I thought he was outworking Ekow. However, even though he was winning the fight literally as in on paper, I thought overall the greater fight, if you know what I mean, was being won by Ekow because you could see Josh was giving his everything in there, and it just everyone thought Ekow's just going to take on later over, and that is what happened essentially in the fight.
Yeah, it was a fight of two halves. That's what it was. You know, his work rate in the second half of the fight was much stronger than Josh's. You know overall that's what happened, and I thought he got the decision.
Does that show that Ekow Essuman's a world-class fighter?
Yeah, he beat our first ever four-time world champion, the first Brit to hold four belts, and he did it. And he's done it. He's done it the hard way. You know, he's come up the hard way, and he never gives less than 100% all the time. He's there with you. He's a competitor, and he's a tough cookie. And he wasn't phased about going to Scotland. He jumped straight away at the fight. And I'll take my hat off to him. I'll take my hat off to say to Josh as well, because Josh been out of the ring for a while to come back, and he put a really good performance in as well. It was a very competitive fight by the both of them.
Yeah, look, people will look at Josh's inactivity, 3 fights in 3 years before this, and say perhaps he's not the same fighter he once was. But I tell you what, there's a lot of fighters in the first 4 or 5 rounds who wouldn't have made it out of there if they were facing that from Josh Taylor. You know, he would have stopped a lot of good fighters early on.
Well, look, if he's going to carry on, fighting, and we'll see. You know, at least he's got everything out of his system. He's got all the rust out of his system with those competitive rounds under his belt. So we'll see. We'll see what he's got left if he carries on. If he decides he's going to do that. As I say, it was a very, very competitive fight between two very competitive fighters, two world-class fighters.
Frank, Josh has kind of apologised and said that he didn't do an interview in the ring with DAZN because he didn't want to say anything in the heat of the moment that he might regret later on. And he was very apologetic, not only about that, but his performance and letting his fans down. How do you look upon that, Frank?
Look, it's emotions. You know, it's a big homecoming fight for him. The fans turned out to him. It sold out. They showed up in their masses to get behind their hero, and they did that. and he obviously wanted to deliver for him, and he did. He delivered for him in endeavour and all what he's got. The other guy Ekow just done a little bit more on the night. That's boxing. That happens. That happens, and as I say, we'll see where we go. He's got nothing to apologise about. He's a good bloke, and I know all his fans are behind him. He thought he won the fight.
How was it working with Josh Taylor?
How was it working?
Yeah.
Lovely. I mean, good people he's got up there with him and everything. It was really good. It was really good working with him. You could, on the TV, you could hear the corner. I heard his corner. The corner, what they were saying to him, and they were right. What they were saying to him, the corner got it spot on.
Do you think he's got a couple of fights still left in him, Taylor? Then,
yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I just think that that was a tough fight for a comeback fight. That was a tough fight. That was a tough fight to pick. You're fighting a guy, as I've said, in the previews, the top 3 fights last year on Boxing News, domestic fights, most exciting fights. Ekow was in 2 of them. He's a competitor, and that's what he did in this fight as well. He come out and give everything again. He doesn't leave anything behind in that ring.
No, he doesn't. Frank, when I spoke to Ekow straight after the fight, he said very clearly he wants Brian Norman for the world title. Can you deliver that?
We can do lots of things, but we'll have to have a look at it and see what the options are at the moment. To get him over, it's going to cost a lot of money. We'll see.
Okay.
Regardless, he deserves it. But he deserves it. He deserves it. He deserves a crack at a world title.
Regardless of Brian Norman or a world title or not, you obviously done a show in Nottingham a couple of weeks ago with Kakachi and Wood, which was brilliant in there. Ezra Taylor's still, he's got a big following in Nottingham. I don't know if Lee Wood might want to carry on. He could be on the undercard if Ekow headlines. Is there potential for a big Nottingham show with Ekow headlining later this year?
The Nottingham fans all turned out in droves for the last fight. And again, there was a fantastic atmosphere there. Why wouldn't they get behind their heroes? They get behind their fighters up there. Same as they do in Glasgow and these guys are giving everything in the ring. And they ain't getting gimme fights. They're all tough fights they're going into. These are real tough, quality, competitive fights for all of them.
Mm. Look, Jaron Ennis boots at welterweight seems like at the moment he's in a bracket of his own. The other world champions, Barrios, Norman, etc. I know Barrios is fighting Pacquiao, which is a whole nother conversation, Frank. But do you think Ekow is really capable with a Norman or a Barrios of winning a world title?
Yeah, I do. I think he gives anybody a problem. As the fight goes on, he gets stronger and stronger. He's all over you. You can't, he's on you all the time. He doesn't give you any breathing space. He can suck the fight out of you with that pace that he creates.
Yeah. Well, that was a great main event. As I said, we're going to go through the whole card. Sort of the other biggest talking point from the night, just because he's making so many waves across British boxing and the world, is Moses Itauma. Another sensational performance. And I say that because, we expected a first round, second round stoppage, which is what he delivered. But it's the maturity in the way he goes about setting up those knockouts. He doesn't rush his work, and his timing and distance. It's all spot on with him, Frank, at the moment.
I've been saying that for ages to anyone who wants to listen. He's not one of those, especially at his age, 20 years or 19, when you sort of really see it. He's not one of those guys that when he gets you in trouble, he rushes in and he loses his space, falling in on you. He keeps his space so that he can let his shots go. He steps back and lets them go and moves them. And what impressed me with the last knockdown was he did it going backwards. Very few fighters can do that, have that power to be able to do that. But going backwards, knocked him over. They were really, really good shots, and against a competitor. I mean, the guy didn't come to lie down. He got up and wanted to carry on. 3 times he was on the floor, and he got caught with really, really good punches. But he stayed to his task, Moses, and and he's very measured and calculated, cool, and very mature, very, very, very mature fighter mentally.
Frank, how do you go about this now? Because at the moment, to get him round, it seems like you'd have to get a robot or a machine in there across him. How do you get him round?
How do we get him round? I think look, when guys are big punchers, they're big punchers, and that's it. You know, we've got made a couple of fights from where we thought we'd get a few rounds out of it, and he's taken guys out who are durable fighters over the few. It is what it is. All you can do now is make matches and try and step him up each time, but he's not far off of fighting for the big one.
Okay. Well, look, your son Francis obviously manages him, and Moses said the same thing. The kind of names that have been floating about, your Zangs, your Hrgoviches, Bakoles, what they're saying is they just want one before that where they can get some rounds, whether it's 7 rounds, 8 rounds. I mean, your boy Francis mentioned the likes of Wallin, Jermaine Franklin, who've obviously gone long with a lot of good fighters. But yeah, I mean, does that sound accurate enough at this
All
point?
those names are, you know, for a young guy, a young fighter coming through, all those names all sound good, all of them. But we will see. I mean, he's going to fight again. He'll fight in July, and we'll be hopefully sorting an opponent out this week.
WBO #1 as well now.
Yeah, he's got. Yeah, they put him in a #1 spot. So, you know, everybody is watching him. All the organisations are watching him because they like what they see. Everybody likes what they see. He can fight. And his feet are firmly on the ground. He's not some nut job. And when you talk, he talks sensibly and intelligently, and he talks as intelligently as he fights intelligently.
To be fair, he's one of the nicest blokes in the sport.
He's a lovely guy. He's a lovely guy. Got a nice family. You know, he's a proper bloke. But once he gets in that ring, I tell you what, he's a monster.
Just to clarify on that as well, for people who might say what you're on about in terms of WBO, Joe Park has been called. Obviously, he's the interim champion. He's the next in line with the WBO. Moses is ranked #1. Just to clarify that for people.
That's correct.
Yeah, yeah. Billy Nelson said to me that Moses has got no chin. I said, "Where have you heard that?" He said, "I'm not going to go into it more."
Don't tell me he's sparring. And he break his nose or he knock him out. I mean, who cares what Billy Nelson says? You know, Bill don't stop, does he? I've got a text on my phone, and it says on there, we'd like to do that fight, but we don't want to do it till December.
I asked him about that, Frank.
I've got the text. I'll send it to you. You can post it.
I asked him about that. He said that we've got something massive coming.
Is he? Oh, right, okay. Well, I don't know what that is, considering that the world title, the big one's going on July 19th, and after that, all the other guys at #1 are all fighters that we're with. So it's a not so massive fight.
Do you think you knock Bakole out tomorrow?
I don't know why we're making a big thing about Bakole. I'm getting sick to death of hearing about Bakole. You've seen his last 2 fights. He was lucky to get a draw in his last fight, and he got poleaxed in the fight before. I've never got all this. You know, I'm not even going to go there anymore with this shit with Bakole. You know, let Bakole have that massive fight he's got, let him win the massive fight, and then we'll see if he deserves a shot. What has he done in his last 2 fights to deserve the shot against any of these guys?
Okay. Anything you want to add about Moses before we move on?
No, I'm just pleased with what he's done, mate. I'm pleased with what he's done, and I'm delighted the way it's going. You know, we've invested in him. He's invested in us, and everything's going really well between us as a team, all of us.
Actually, Frank, can I just get one more on this? Obviously, you do not want this. You're hoping and you're expecting Fabio Wardley to beat Justice Huni in a couple of weeks at Ipswich. Just say Justice Huni does get the win. Is that something then you'd look at Moses and Justice?
In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. Make it straight away.
But you've got Fabio winning that fight anyway, so
I have, but you know, Huni, whatever. You know, you just said something there. Of course, I would do that fight.
Okay.
I would do that fight.
Someone else who grabbed the headlines on Saturday night with a devastating knockout. And not only that, because we know he can knock people out, but he's also improving clearly from what I saw as a fighter. Aloys Jr. David Jamieson was a really tough customer, showed a lot of heart in there. But it's going to take some beating to stop Aloys, isn't it?
Well, first of all, David is a competitor. I mean, he's got a fabulous jab. I mean, those first couple of rounds, I mean, I thought he really boxed well. But, you know, Aloys, how old? He's just turned 22, I think. And what's that? His 10th fight.
Mm.
I mean, he's something else. All these names we're talking about, you know, great prospects. He's there with them. He's there. He's delivering. He's exciting. He's powerful. He's strong. He went into the other guy's backyard. He's not fazed by anything. He believes in himself. And I'm telling you, that fella, Aloys, you stand on me, will win a world title. He is a quality operator.
I think what was most impressive about him on Saturday night, again, he wasn't rushing his work. We've seen him sometimes early on, you know, trying to steamroll people, but his jab to the body was really slowing down Jamieson. And then when he lets his shots go, it's quite scary watching it ringside.
It is. And again, getting his distance. You know, Ben's done a good job with him, getting his distance, measuring his shots, you know, not falling in and, you know, and smothering his own work. He gets his distance and he's powerful, he's strong. I mean, you know, I keep using this expression. He says animal. He's a monster. He's an animal. I mean, you know, but he's an educated animal. He can fight. He can box. He showed that in that fight, and he's very, very hurtful and devastating puncher.
Yeah, he called out Vidal Riley after the fight. I'm sure you'd make
Do that one again. Let's get it on.
Okay. Right. Talking about stoppages, Nathaniel Collins, incredible win over Lee McGregor, Frank.
Bloody good win, wasn't it? You know, that's true now. He's really come of age. He looks like to be the next big thing in Scotland.
He's near enough a world title, isn't he, soon? No, Frank?
He is. He's not far off, that's for sure. That was a cracking win, and the way he went about his business. You know, he done a job.
He did drop Nick Ball's name afterwards.
I'm sure he's ambitious and he wants to fight. I mean, wouldn't it be great if we get him a world title, and then him and Nick go for a unification? That would be brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. There was another great stoppage on the card from Reece Lynch, who made his professional debut. A composed performance. The guy was really tough in there, but he picked his shots well, created angles, and got his man out of there.
And he did. He got clipped himself. He got clipped himself, but he showed some tremendous skills there, and he's going to be a really good fighter to work with, and you can see that he's got, you know, he looks like he's got everything that's needed to get him very, very far in this business. He's an exciting fighter, and that's a very good performance, as was young Mr. Limond and young Mr. Arthur. Both of them were on earlier in the night against, you know, good seasoned guys. For you know, they you know, in Alex's case, he had a real tough guy in for I think hadn't been stopped for 6 years as his first fight. That was a tough one, but it's good to get those round out under his belt, and he's going to definitely wind up doing some damage in that division. I'm looking forward to working with him. Certainly working for his dad Alex, you know, who I promoted, and we worked together to get him a world title, and I'm going to make sure the same happens for his boy. And as I say, an old young Mr. Limond, he done a really good job. I mean, these in Scotland, you're looking at these fellas, they are quality fighters. There's some great talent there. I mean, we haven't been up there for quite a few years, and I'm looking at these fighters and thinking, bloody hell, where did we miss some of this? So we're there now with these guys, and we're going to be up there regularly promoting, and we're going to make sure that we deliver for them. They are quality fighters, and Scotland, you know, Scotland's going to wind up with a couple more world champions, in my opinion.
Well, you mentioned a few there who are on your book. Someone, again, with a devastating stoppage, which was on paper quite a bit of a 50-50 fight, Aston Brown and Reece Porter, and Aston destroyed Reece in one round.
He did. I mean, that everybody I think expected that be a bit of a war and go on, but that wasn't the case. And Aston, I mean, he's funny. It's like he's a pretty cool customer, isn't he? Getting into the ring. I was watching him, watching it on TV, obviously, and I thought to myself, hey, is he taking this a little bit too? He seemed a bit too relaxed. I weren't sure. Blimey, he can fight. He can fight. It's a shame that all the problems that he had, but he's come back and shown what he's all about, hasn't he? He's done extremely well.
I'm sure you want him back on a Queensberry show, eh?
We're gonna do a deal with him.
Oh,
I want to do a deal with him.
yeah.
I want him on Queensberry.
Luke McCormack, thoughts on his performance and win?
Very good performance. Yeah, got to get him out again. Again, another good quality operator. Very, very good quality operator. And they had a good night up there, didn't they? The old Hertfordshire gym.
Yeah. Ben's really got something going there with those three.
Yeah, I mean, he had a couple of disappointments. Like, you have your ups and downs, but it's all about the youngsters and developing them. And he's doing a good job with those boys.
Just go back to those guys as well. Moses, Luke, and Aloys. We were sitting with them in the hotel after the fight, and they're young guys, and all they actually said was just want to get back in the gym next week.
Yeah, because they're young, hungry fighters. They're hungry, young fighters, and the thing is, you have to have. It's a funny thing. We used to do more dates. I'm talking about years and years ago. I remember one year I did over 40 dates on TV on the various ITV channels, and it was great because you get everybody out and give them more and more fights. And it's not so much the case these days, but we've got to get these fellas more active. They need activity. And they want to be in the gym because they're in the gym, they're learning. Every day you're in the gym, you're learning. But the end result is you want to be out there showing what you've learned.
Well, yeah, it was a brilliant night up in Glasgow. We move on to Ipswich, June 7th, Waldley and Honey, and then obviously July 19th, Usyk Dubois 2. I actually haven't spoke to you about another show you announced, July 26th. What a main event that is in Bournemouth between Garner and Belotti. That's
a good fight, isn't it?
Yeah.
They both Belotti will bring some people down with him, so there'll be some atmosphere in there. I'm looking forward to that. Grab a really good quality undercard on that. Very competitive undercard. Young Royston's going to be on there in his first title fight, real proper title fight. So there's going to be some really good fights on there. I'm looking forward to that, and that's a great fight. And I'm a big believer in Ryan, but this is a tough fight for him. It's a big one for him. He comes through this, and then he's not going to be far off of fighting for a world title this year. You
enjoying this mini sort of tour of the UK that you started off with the Zone so far?
Yeah, it's what we used to do. I mean, that was our thing, taking fights from around the country. We're doing this, the Zone have bought into this with us, and that's what we're doing, and we're delivering. And when you're doing this, it's good to take fights to towns, and it is about promoting, in as much that you're getting your home fans behind you, and they suddenly become travelling fans if you're going elsewhere. And as I say, they're coming out in droves to support their local heroes, and the atmosphere of these events have been brilliant up to yet.
Frank, one venue that we haven't seen boxing in a while for. You went there with Joyce Chisora last summer, but it seems at the moment quite hard to find a London headliner for the O2, but there's one that's screaming out, and that's Moses Itauma. How far off is he headlining the O2, do you think?
He could headline anywhere right now. That's not a problem, but it's getting him on the right shows at this moment in time. He's going to be on a massive show for his next fight, which we'll announce, which will be good. And then I think that's what will be happening. He will be headlining his own show.
Okay. Just to close off, away from Saturday night, I saw Tyson Fury, Derek Chisora, and 50 Cent all in Monaco. You had a quick call with Tyson as well. How is he out there?
Oh, he called me. Yeah, him and Derek rang me. That was with Stephen Purge, who owns the health club, Henlow Grange, and what's the one in Tring? I forgot the bloody name, but that's terrible. Anyway, yeah, they were all together and at the Grand Prix, and they had me on the phone for a little while yesterday. They looked like they was all having a good time, enjoying life. Yeah. Good luck to them.
What is actually happening with Derek though, career-wise, Frank?
He's got the big 5-0. We're working on that. We're working on that. He's gonna have that big 50 fight, and a lot's going to happen after the. Let's see how the dust settles on the 19th of July. That is the catalyst for the heavyweight division. Once that big fight happens, somebody will have then the 4 belts, and then that's the catalyst for. You'll see a lot of action and flurry to get people in position for the mandatories and various other fights. So that's the big one.
Well, when I look at it, there's Joe Parker, Derek Chisora, Ajit Kabayel, Lawrence Okoli, and they're all with you. So
keep going.
There's loads, but those are the 4 actually in the different governing bodies.
Yeah. Well, Derek's the mandatory.
Yeah.
Derek's a mandatory as well for one of those belts. Yeah, it's really exciting times, and really good fights, and fights that the fans are attending. We're getting good audiences. We're taking them to big venues throughout the country and enjoying every moment of it.
Okay. Well, the next 2 will be 2 stadium shows with heavyweight headliners. But until then, Frank, appreciate your time, and we'll catch up soon, I hope.
We certainly will.